Unfortunately, Wolves did fall to Fnatic. And first off, I'm going to start off this video by just saying this. Look, all get your little laughs in at Wolves, whatever, right? If you're a fan of a team who isn't Paper X or Fnatic, then you got no leg to stand on. You finished worse than Wolves. I mean, that's pretty embarrassing. And if you are a fan of Paper X or Fnatic, well, half of you are going to be crying later today, you know, with sadness because your team lost. Whoever wins, it doesn't matter. Well done. You beat Wolves. Your biggest achievement this year for both those teams is beating Wolves. Yeah, that's not an achievement. You've achieved nothing as of I record this video right now. Now, one of the two teams will later on, but of course, today we're going to talk about Fnatic versus Wolves. And we're going to start here with Split, which I really think that kind of told the story of the game, which is that Wolves on 3 of the 4 maps, the 3 maps that they lost, just kept getting off to these kind of rather sluggish starts in the first half. And this first map of Split really felt like the pressure was just too much for Wolves in this situation. They just weren't ready. And when I first saw this pistol round from Fnatic, well, I was a bit worried.
Try and carry that home. Obviously the Gen G scoreline does sit in the back of your mind.
Can't ignore it. But for Fnatic, they've been here before. They felt these final stages, and they've thrived. The Wolves, new territory, and a new danger in the form of Kayak and Alpha, sliding into the site like it was nothing.
Yeah, so a pretty good start for Fnatic there, and a really nice pistol exec. Now, the reason this annoyed me as a Wolves fan was because Fnatic lose half these rounds to time anyway, and of course against Wolves they decide to, you know, go for like the fast perfect exec that they've never shown before. Like, of course they do. In all the other games, you know, we're getting Gloonatic, you know, just walking around the map clueless. And against Wolves, they pull out this, right? So they go for the Astra stun with a nade in towards Vents just there. They then come towards the site, and it's a really nice kind of double entry with the Duelist. You know, you're going to get Alpha blast backing in. You get the flashback site. I mean, it's just, it's really quite nice, right? Like, the timing is really good. And then this is just like, this is a good sign of like what happened for Wolves in this game, where I felt like there was a lot of moments like this, where just like, things were just slightly not quite right and just like not quite going their way, where you look at this and you're like, well, this is a free kill, right? Back in a 4v4, great fade horn by Sufat, but Crashies is tucked up against this wall and is, you know, just avoiding it. And probably if Sufat is, you know, if he just takes a step to the left, he probably does like half kill him through the wall, but I think right here he is spamming the part of the wall that you can't actually get through, so he doesn't quite do damage. And, you know, that's just how it was going for Wolves. But from here as well, Fnatic will manage to close this round out.
Kayak and Alpha, sliding into the site like it was nothing. Already a clear-cut approach for Fnatic as the plant's next.
Chronicle waiting for Spring, expects actually just missing him. Maybe now going to come back and recheck, but actually Spring shows himself. Chronicle wins out, gets himself a little upgrade as well.
Oh, God, and Kayak. He's on it today. Yeah, he's on it today. If he's going to be firing like that, Mike.
So yeah, again, unfortunately for Wolves, you know, some of the Fnatic players were hitting pretty hard in this game. And it starts with Chronicle here, you know, perhaps getting a kill again that he's not really favored for, to be honest. You know, you would think that this perhaps should be a Spring kill when Chronicle has to do that. But nope, he manages to hit it. And, you know, it's a very good kind of closeout pistol round from Fnatic, fighting as a team here at the end and winning the pistol. But the pistol is one thing, but the bonus round, I think, really showed the kind of the Wolves' nerves in this one. I mean, it starts off with this, right, of like Fnatic just knowing that they could get to this position, right, where Alpha is actually ahead of Lysol's one-way here, and he has no idea. Now, in this round, he doesn't actually get fully punished for this, right, but there was a couple times in this game where this happened and Lysol was kind of, you know, not fully aware. I mean, he could easily die there, right? Like, if Alpha swings with this recall star, I mean, you're just instantly dead. I don't know. Lysol's Omen. Look, I personally would prefer if Lysol could learn to play Viper and we could just have Spring on Omen. I think that would be much better for the team. But now Fnatic are going to go for this little B exec here. They're going to send the Euroclone to destroy this trip here in mid. So it's a great sun pressure in mid, and now they're going to come in towards the B site.
BB on the rotate. Lysol actually caught with a stun, but
Good timing on the paranoia, though, at least. And he's trying to get back into the thick of things. But the
we got caught by the reveal.
Yeah, he's going to be captured, absolutely seen. And the site gets taken, really nice.
So yeah, again, not a great site hold here from Lysol. The way, I mean, again, it's good by Fnatic. They know where he's likely to be. The util is nicely layered, right? The Fade Horn comes in, and I think if you're Lysol here, you have to know, like, they're playing with this Yoru. Like, anytime you're playing against these Yoru comps on Split, like, this part, they are going to send a lot of util towards this part because they need to know that their Yoru could go here, right, and be safe. So he's trying to TP back in here, but, I mean, obviously, he then just gets caught by the reveal and just gets spammed through. Now, this is good by Boaster because whilst that's going on, Spring is actually ahead of this and it's just going to pick Alpha out of the sky, but Boaster is actually so fast here in terms of actually getting out. You see, he's able to kind of just hide as Alpha is dying in the sky there, and then doesn't reveal himself to Spring and actually gets a kill on Sufat. So it's really good by Boaster trying to finding that timing as Spring, you know, gets his kill and thinks, hey, that's the duelist, I've done my job. You know, I can now go back and check mid. But now we enter into a 3v4 retake, and again, you're going to see Wolves give this a half-decent try. But again, it just felt like the nerves were getting to them early on in this game.
Now 3 players from Wolves have to try and get back in this. Utility-wise, you look at a Juicy, maybe able to carve a way into this, maybe springboard forward, but Crashies wants to get involved. Fnatic not even really giving them much of the sight here. Happy to play a little bit of a challenge, but falling away towards main. Kayak on the cross, gonna get punished. YU does well. 3 more to find now in an even affair, but it is still a bonus. Juicy on the swing, and now we sit into the post. So they have here to buy the time. Shot from Grom. Yeah, not looking phased just yet. Still that util with Boaster. So they're able to run through, but now around the world coming in. Oh, the Crashies doesn't need.
Yeah, so Crashies obviously shouldn't really be able to get both of those kills just there, and yeah, Wolves lose the round. Let's get back to the next full gun round. In this one, Wolves are taking a timeout, and they decided to flip the map somewhat, where they're going for the Cypher on B instead. So you see Alpha again just taking this B main control nice and early. Now Fnatic here, they're going to go for a kind of B split play with the Yoru ult coming through here, and the rest of the team is going to come up through B. But we're going to talk about this Yoru ult and just something that, not just a Wolves thing, but just kind of in general, one thing that I've seen from teams a lot that I think teams need to learn how to play against these Yoru ults, because they just don't play against it correctly. And we're going to see another example here of a team not correctly kind of playing against a Yoru ult, and it requires you to be brave. That's why. Because often when you get these Yoru ults, right, these are pretty common these days, right? A Yoru ult where the Yoru himself will go one way, and the rest of the team will kind of go the other way to create kind of a split, right? And the idea of this is that it creates a lot of pressure in here, right? Without actually being that many people, right? And so you've got basically a lot of pressure coming this way and a lot of pressure coming this way, right? Which makes it a very successful split. The thing that teams need to realize is that this is a very popular idea, and that oftentimes, anytime you see a Yoru do this on split, I can guarantee there's max one person behind it. There's either 0 or 1 person behind it. There is never more than that, okay? So your reaction here should be the opposite of what Spring does, because what Spring does here is what a lot of people do. They back off, right? They go, I don't like it. The thing is, you should do the opposite. And it does require to be brave. But when you see this Yoru here, you want to go forward. The reason you want to go forward is because this Yoru is probably not going to be smart enough to come back and follow you and try and set you up, you know, for this teammate. They're not going to do that. And if they do, their whole timing is kind of ruined, and their whole plan of this is kind of ruined, and they haven't cleared the site for these guys, and so you've kind of messed up their entire round anyway, even if they do that. And they won't do that. They will just carry on to site. And so you will be able to come down here, and this guy, if there might not even be anyone there, right? But if there is someone there, well, at that point, this guy is in trouble, right? Because all of a sudden, you're fighting him, and that you could have teammates come in here too, right? And that Yoru just doesn't have the time to check all of that out. So it's possible that this guy's in a lot of trouble, right? If the Yoru sees you running forward, they're probably gonna run away, or you know, max like hold their ground. They're not gonna come forward. And the thing is, you know, if we take a look at what goes on here, and again, with the Yoru ult, right, we got the recent change where there's less time, and I do think we have seen, I think Jorgamo got punished in one of these, right, where when a team goes for this kind of ult now, because of the less time, there is potential to punish them, right? For instance, imagine here your Kayak, right, these guys have not quite come around this corner yet. Imagine there is someone here. There's not much he can do. He's probably going 1-for-1 there. Like, Kayak is probably dying in that spot because he can just like throw a random flash at the ground and hope and pray. But it's not going to be easy, and particularly if you know, are aware of this Yoru ult potentially coming in like this, and you put a smoke there, you know, Kayak could be in trouble. So there's two ways of kind of playing it. One is trying to punish the less time on these ults now, which we have seen some teams do. But the other, and I think, again, we've got to see teams do this more, It's just push forward. And sure, eventually there probably will be a Yoru ult that comes in where there is 3 people behind it and they are following it up. But I've watched a lot of these Yoru B-split ults on split, and not many of them have that. It's mostly just either one guy chilling back here like Kron, or it's no one. And you can take all this space, right? Because now, if you take a look at what's going on, think about this retake from Wolves, right? They've got no space. They have to retake all of this, right? And the whole site. Well, if you push forward behind this Yoru and do that, again, this Yoru is never going into spawn, because then where are they going to go, right? If you push forward, you already own all of this space. You'll then come back into this space naturally, and that makes your retake just this, right? Very, very different. Okay, so the difference is if you can be brave, you know, that is going to make a big difference to you. But now, let's watch this post plan.
So right decision from Wolves as well. They test the 5v5 in the retake. And both chips still in play here, but nobody in a position to capitalise off that. Fnatic will actually get a clean plant off this, other than the snakebite landing.
I'm waiting to see that lurk, though, as well. We saw that Boaster was willing to do the around the world, this time obviously very on site. So it probably comes down to Kron. Not going to come through. That's a big connection. Kron is going to show his hand as well. That's going to be a thought in the back of their minds now for this retake. Kayak can be on that close corner. Nice shot. Tries to swing CT, gets denied. As Lysol now builds back in on the side. Boaster might have been seen on that, not sure. But he tries to readjust. Crashes, holding well towards Pillar. Good timing from Kron. And speaking of timing, that snakebite should prove a problem. See that BD has to go big. And it's Kron on the other side, the original Iceman himself.
What's interesting about this round is, because the fact that Spring did back up, it cost them this round. Like, in multiple ways, there are multiple ways that Wolves could have easily, or much more easily, had an advantage in this round, but didn't because, you know, Spring decided to back up, right? And we can see it here because they have to retake Heaven, right? After this Yoru ult, you see that they have to prowl the Heaven to see what's going on. Well, as they're doing that, Alpha's going to run into this trip, right? And you just think, like, again, if Spring holds his ground or is, you know, more aggressive here, and they already have this space, this is a kill, right? This is just a free kill. Not only is it a free kill, but almost certainly Boaster then is not planting here, right? Which again is going to determine the round, because it is planted for Chronicle. You know, if the spike is planted here instead, safe, much more hard, you know, much more difficult for Chronicle to then win that round, you know, coming from Heaven. Whereas, you know, they do get the open plant here for Chronicle, which is good. Now, Wolves here as well, we can talk about this, because they do see Chron here, right? They do expect there to be a lurk, right? They get Fade ulted, so they basically say we might as well run away from that anyway. And, you know, they see Chronicle there. Now, when you see a guy here, right, and you know that there is a potential here for them to lurk, you know, back up, sometimes these guys, you know, will just go back. Right, and sometimes they will do what Kron does here and kind of stay on the lurk and keep going with it, right? And obviously, as the retaking team here, you don't know which is which. So you essentially have two options, right? Option one is what Wolves do, which is you just try and go faster than this guy, right? You just try and go and blitz in as quick as you can, so that that guy is essentially out of the round, and for a brief moment, you have essentially a 5v4. Right, and that is what Wolves do here. And that is one option you could take. I think it is quite difficult when it's a 5v5, right? Because you still got a lot of bodies here. You still got a lot of util to potentially deal with. So that I think is a harder option to do in a 5v5. You know, if it's a 4v4, 3v3, that probably is the right option a lot of the time, because, you know, there isn't going to be as much to deal with. You're going to be able to blitz in pretty quick. 5v5 is a little bit trickier, and we see that happen for Wolves here. But the other option, if you wanted to go for it, is basically you just leave someone in Heaven and they just kind of become, you know, a bit of support up here. You know, maybe they come out rafters, but then at a certain point they feel the timing and, you know, they swing around and they kill this guy, right? Or look for this guy at the very least. That's your other option. Wolves decide not to go for that in this case, and they essentially are just a little bit too slow with getting through this, you know, to actually, you know, deal with this round. And even we see it gets pretty close, right? But you see that Chronicle is there now. He's already got his free kill just there, and now he's going to close out the round, right? So there was, again, multiple things. And again, if they just play against that Yoru ult a bit more aggressively, which again I think is probably the best way of doing it, then this round potentially goes quite a different way. But now finally, let's skip ahead to round number 7. And in this one, again, I think this is where you see again that just the pressure of this situation early on for Wolves. They were kind of panicked a little bit. You know, it felt like an experience diff here, right? Like even that initial trade of util there, right? The Fnatic still get the B main control even as Wolves try and, you know, kind of do something about that. They're not able to. And now though, they're gonna end up in a really good spot, Wolves, in this round, right? They end up in a supreme spot where essentially they're going to say, okay, we feel this bit of B main pressure, but we know we're playing against Fnatic, so you know you've got time where they're probably not going to do an exec, right? And at the minute mark, they decide, let's re-explore mid, right? As they're grouping up together, and you see that Juicy, I mean, he finds a perfect timing. Like, this couldn't be any better, right? Like, it literally could not be any better. And now they realize what round they're in. It's a great fade ult here as well, right? Because these guys aren't going to exec when they fade ult. So you've put him in an amazing position, right? Like, just like everything is working as well as it could. And not even that, they're now going to kill Boaster, so now you have no smokes. Right? Like, it couldn't go better, right? That is, like, actually perfect. Now, Juicy decides to get out of there, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? He doesn't want to get caught. He doesn't necessarily know if, you know, Chronicle is on his way back up here and is going to, you know, just flank him from behind. So getting out of here, no problem with that, right? You've got Raze ult as well. You know, play a 5v4 against no smokes. That's a good situation. But now, again, we see Wolves kind of capitulate.
And another confirmation of attendance towards B main.
Moving that, I think Fnatic might still just decide to carry on through. Showstopper sent.
30 seconds left.
That's the response comes through here. Juicy.
It's only Alpha.
Does he go for it?
It's only Alpha on the side. The rest still biding their time. And then look towards middle. Kayak creeping closer. Gonna catch one, and now they're locked in there with Fnatic. Juicy trying, but Fnatic
Down B.
just...
So yeah, this is where they're kind of Fnatic, not panicking in these situations, you know, still playing it out very logically. Of course, they do come in onto site here and they got Raze ult. So what Wolves do and kind of just like saying, you know, we're just going to survive that Raze ult, absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that decision there. The problem that they've then got is that Juicy was the guy who was watching mid, right? But now he wants to Raze ult in on the site, but no one comes back to kind of think about, you know, this. So essentially we have 4 people just looking at the site, and Kayak is going for this replay, right? And again, that kind of wins the round because Fnatic, again, do a good job here of just basically saying, we're just going to survive this, right? So they just survive the Raze ult. And now we get this where Sufat last second looks across here, but it's too late. Kayak kills him, and now you're in a lot of trouble, right? So again, they end up in this spot where they decide, are we going to deal with this guy or are we going to deal with the site? But for whatever reason, they decide, let's deal with the site. It's very possible at this point that they did think that Alpha is alone here, because these guys I don't think have made any noise since. It's possible that they literally thought they've just left this guy here and he's a free kill. And these guys are like, you know, either running to A or they're running back mid and this is where the team is. It is possible that's what Wolves thought, but again, they decided to kind of, you know, rush into this. And you see them rush into this, right? Because YU's here, you know, way ahead of Spring, you know, takes this fight, you know, just way too soon. And Alpha just destroys them both and Wolves lose the round. Now, Wolves eventually did have a bit of a fight back in this game, but again, they just started off too slow, right? This map ended like 13-9. I mean, it actually was winnable for Wolves in the second round in the second half had they just got a few more rounds, but as you see, they didn't quite manage to do it. And Fnatic closed out another one.
Just elevating again. Those mid looks coming out from Kayak then. Lovely layering. So Lysor, you've got a Paranoia and 3 players. 2 kills so far. To more than double to get a shot at this. Fnatic gonna, well, at least be put down to 2 here. Kayak gone and the emergency alarm ringing.
Respect shown here to Lysor. The pick goes up, potentially to seal the deal on round 7.
I like that. Come on, Lysor. You've got to find 2 more. Decides to go for the Paranoia on the right side. He has to do the guess, but for